Hello and welcome inside our first postseason edition of the Scores Table. Brian Hinch and Danny Rago here with you, getting ready to recap a full and very busy and eventful night of sectional action. I mean, what a start to the week! It was unbelievable. I got a great guest list lined up for you. The plan is Vince Sabol, head coach of Franklin Central, the Flashes, with a nice win tonight over Center Grove. To lead things off, then we'll be joined by Cathedral's Abby Beasley, Jaeda Wilson. The Irish moved on with a win over Chatard, and then we'll be double dipping from the Ben Davis section with Pike's Keith Hollins, Brownsburg's Josh Sabol joining us to wrap up the show before Danny and I bring things home with some whiparound items. Danny, what a night.
Yeah, what a start. That's quite the lineup too. I mean, there's like big markets, big teams, and some of them have gone fishing.
Everybody's itching to join the Scores Table, and I think it's because of us, and we're just so great at this that they want to come on.
Look, I think they're leaning into it. I mean, it's really cool that like that's how you presented the information. Like Cathedral moves on, and this team moves on, and this team beat that team, and I mean, 'tis the season for those kind of back hallway tears too. You know, I shout out to all the seniors that maybe have their seasons ended. It's gut wrenching to see these kids get taken off the floor for the same time. Like at the game I was at, the seniors, when they got pulled out, like one of them didn't even want to leave the floor. Poor kid.
Yeah, that's tough.
It is tough.
Let's start with the game that I was at as we wait for Vince Sorbonne to jump on with us. Center Grove, Franklin Central. The Flashes come away with a 54 to 47 overtime win over Center Grove. We have some sound here. Peyton Duvall, Lily Graves of Franklin Central to get things started. As it come so close to getting wins like this, Lawrence Central, Mosel, just a bunch of different teams. What did it take? What was the difference tonight to get over that hump?
You got it. No, you got it. We stayed together with each other, and we didn't get down on ourselves. Like, we helped one another get up when things went tough, and then we went on our runs at just the right time.
Yeah, we just found what was working and kept doing it until they stopped us.
The mental resiliency, how have you seen that develop this season? And I guess just what was the difference tonight in kind of having that fortitude to get through some pretty tough stretches?
We were just great teammates to one another. That's really have been our biggest thing that we've been working on all season, is just being good teammates, and I think it's helped us pay it off tonight.
Yeah. Peyton, for you, what were you seeing out there? I mean, that was a big game. I think 21 points for you out there.
It was a physical game. Definitely pushed me to be more physical, and just work in the paint, what I know how to do. So it was a good thing to get back to doing that.
How has that been for you, kind of adjusting and playing through some of that physicality?
It's a lot sometimes. I definitely got tired, but I pushed through it.
Lily, what do you see from her?
I think this has been her best game so far, for sure. She battled with everyone in there, and she just overall had a really good performance for us, and she was one of the main parts that helped us win.
Peyton Duvall is probably the best place to start when talking about that game. I mean, she was phenomenal, the best game that I've seen from her in my time covering her. Efficient shooting the ball. Vince talked about it, and we'll talk with her about it here in a bit, but just she played really well against the physicality, fought through a lot of contact, didn't get the calls, kept going, kept her head down, kept working at it. Really showed off a variety of post maneuvers too. Like Danny, the way that she was able to get to the basket and get her shot free was really impressive. It's one of those performances that kind of reminds you, oh, that's why everybody thinks so highly of this kid, is just because she has so many tools in that toolbox. She had a big block late too to kind of help seal it, because she swats the shot, and then suddenly Franklin Central's back at the line where they were able to start pushing it away. Carly Holmes was tremendous at the line down the stretch to put that thing away. But yeah, just really, really impressed with Peyton Duvall.
Well, the prognostication aged well. I mean, we talked about how she might have needed to be the best player on the floor, and the text that I was getting from both you and other people that were streaming the game had mentioned her on several occasions in making big plays. So that is a huge, I think, positive sign for them moving forward, is because she seems to have grown up before our very eyes. And I think a win over Center Grove is something that isn't going to slow that down at all. I mean, that's something that's going to accelerate them through the rest of this tournament. But she's always had it. But this Lily was somewhat limited, probably because of the injury, I would assume. I mean, the names that were coming across, Hank, were Duvall and Hutari, and you mentioned Holmes. I mean, these are all underclassmen. They're all 27s, right? I mean, it just youth was served tonight, right, at Franklin Central?
Yeah, and we'll talk about Lily Graves here in a minute because she's the other big storyline from tonight. But just with Duval, I wrote in the story, but she had 5 points over the final 2 minutes of the first half to get them within a point. And that was huge because up until then, I think it was like an 11-0 run with 5 straight turnovers by Center Grove to kind of take control in the second quarter. And Kevin Stuckmeyer mentioned it, and Vince alluded to it indirectly, but the game was tilting right there. Like they had Franklin Central was on the ropes a little bit, and it was a moment for a young team where it'd be really easy to close up shop and to go down, but they fought through. They get Gilliard, they pick up second foul on her, get her out of the game. Center Grove's offense goes a little stagnant, and then Duval started going to work, 3-point play, then another 2, and then carries that momentum into the second half. And then you mentioned Lily Graves, of course, has the knee injury against Noblesville. Everybody's kind of expecting the worst. I think we talked about that even on the show, that real torn ACL vibes, and thank goodness it was just a hyperextension of her knee, which isn't great, but she was able to play. To her surprise, we talked about this a little bit off air, and it's something that I'm saying for another story, but to her surprise, she got the start. She found out today during weights class. She was able to give it a go. She felt slow and felt a little limited out there, but honestly, watching her, she looked fine. She was obviously pretty sore afterwards, but I thought she looked good. Duval thought she looked good as well. She hit the shot of the night. She hit the 3-pointer in overtime off a feed from Duval, hit it from just inside the volleyball line, drills the 3, and then ended up putting Franklin Central up for good in the extra session. So a clutch shot by the senior, and it's fun and it's cool talking to her. And this is kind of the crux of my story afterwards. It's just, yeah, I asked her, why are you coming back? Why are you playing through this pain? Why? It seems like an obvious question, but I'm always curious to your kid's response to that. And she said, I want to win a sectional title. I've never won one in my 4 years here, and it's on our home court. I'll have plenty of time to rest after the tournament. I don't need it right now.
Good for her. That's awesome. I mean, I thought the interview was awesome too. And she seems to be obviously somebody that, has leaned on for leadership within that locker room. At least that's the way that appears to be from somebody on the outside. But, back to the game. I mean, do you mind kind of telling the story because this is what's unique about this. When you do these post-game shows, you don't get the chance to come home and screen them, right? You can only really follow your timeline certainly you can watch it on your phone, but how did we get to overtime in that game? Did somebody have it won, and was there a big play made? Can you just get us there?
So it's nuts as I try to pull up my notes here. I mean, it was crazy. So Franklin Central gets the lead 42-40 with the Carly Holmes bucket in the final minute. And then they force a turnover right in front of the Center Grove bench. And it's like, okay, this is it. They have a chance to put this thing away, just get the ball in bounds cleanly, and ice it at the line. Well, they didn't get it in cleanly. They threw it to the baseline underneath the Center Grove basket, and then trying to keep it in bounds, they threw it directly to Lily Bischoff, who laid it in for 2. Kind of snowballed from there, where Franklin Central goes 0 for 2 at the line. So again, the door is wide open, but I swear, Danny, like from there, it's like a switch flipped. And that's something that Vince talks about after the game, is just the way that this team is resilient and just kept grinding and kept finding ways. And they really dialed up the defensive pressure. They nearly forced a turnover on the ensuing inbound after the missed free throws. Kevin managed to get a timeout for Center Grove. Then from there, they just kept fouling. They had fouls to give, so they fouled 4 times, got it all the way down to 2 seconds. Yeah, it was a masterclass. Like, they executed it really, really well. They just kept fouling and fouling and fouling and wouldn't let them get a shot off. The very last foul, the one before the bonus, they fouled Gilliard before she could get a shot off, and she ended up going in clean for the layup. So if they hadn't fouled her there, I mean, it would have been 2, and it could have been game over. 2 seconds left. Center Grove gets an inbound. They definitely got away with a 5-second violation. I mean, it was a full couple beats after the 5 seconds, but thankfully, thank God, it didn't matter, because I mean, if it would have been a massive headache for me. And frankly, I just don't have the mental capacity for that right now. I don't want a controversy to start off my postseason tournament. I'll be honest. But Ava Grant got a great look, and it just wouldn't go. It bounced off the back rim and out. And then in overtime, Grayson Gilliard hits a 2, Graves hits a 3, and then it's like Franklin Central took off from there. Their defense was tremendous throughout. And like I said, I mean, the Holmes kid at the line, just out of nowhere. I mean, we were talking before the show, and you were like, who? It's like, yeah, you won't believe this, but she's a sophomore, one of a dozen.
Of course, she's a Franklin Central sophomore
on there,
making big plays in Central.
But it was, though. I think you used the phrase that Franklin Central grew up, and they did. Like that was a growing up performance by them, and I brought up Knowlesville just because I was thinking of that with regards to Lily and her injury, but Lawrence Central's probably the best example of that, where they had the Bears on the ropes and just couldn't close it out. They've come close to some other big wins this year and just haven't been able to quite get there. But tonight they finally did get there, and for a team like that, I'm really excited to see what that does for their confidence and how they're able to parlay that, because I mean, they're the odds-on favorite now. We said it from the beginning. Whoever won that is going to be the favorites. And Mooresville, I think, is going to be a really tough test. Southport's going to be playing with house money, but it'd be tough to pick against Franklin Central, even though it's 100% what I did going into the tournament.
I think your take is for them about them finishing a game off, I think, is a really smart take. I think it bears worth repeating. You mentioned the Lawrence Central game. There were a couple of others too, where they just were in the basketball game late and just didn't make the play. To make the play that's growth. And it was never talent. I actually would argue, and I actually think that Kevin might agree here. I mean, player for player, toe to toe, Franklin Central might actually be the more talented basketball team. Might be. There's certainly some great pieces at Center Grove, but they were young. I mean, they were young. I mean, on the other side, you have, the elder statesmen and Bischoff and Grant, and, Gilliard is no spring chicken either. And she's used to it. But again, I think the story tonight, and just without having screened the game and just nothing schematic, is the fact that these 27s are just making big plays in sectionals, because all over the state, that's, these young teams and these experienced teams, you're going to see a contrast of performance in these sectional games.
Going to see a lot more of them too. I mean, Kenzie Cook played tonight, and there's going to be a few more coming up here soon, so that's fun. On the Center Grove side of things, that's something that Stuck mentioned too. Is just like, we have the elder statesmen. It's also a lot of young, inexperienced players coming in and playing in some of those moments, and it's tough. The offense went stagnant for them a little bit. The defense was really good there for stretches. But, Franklin Central, it's one of those situations, we talked about it before, but you just got to tip your cap. Sometimes the other team makes plays and, you lose, and it sucks, but it happens. And that kind of is what it felt like for Center Grove tonight, where Franklin Central just had that next gear. They were able to attack their defense. And after a brief 8-minute feeling out period where I was questioning my life, and they were like 10 points scored between the two teams, that's an exaggeration. They both kind of found their footing, and it just, Franklin Central was able to make more plays over a longer stretch than Center Grove. But major shout out to Lily Bischoff. She's been playing with an ankle injury this season, the one that's going to require surgery at the end of the year. But that kid only missed a couple games and managed to play through. And I think she had 4 points tonight, but still just a phenomenal career. And Danny, you've alluded to her leadership before, but just a really fun kid to cover. Same too with Ava Grant. It's been fun watching her development. And then, Emerson Volkin had some big plays tonight too. She's another kid that kind of went under the radar a little bit this year. Was a big piece for them too.
How'd Gilliard look?
Oh my God. Unbelievable. 29 points. Like there was a stretch there. I think it was in the third quarter where like the Bischoff Gilliard connection started cooking a little bit, where it's just like they were breaking free for layups, and then, they dish a pass off to the other one across the way and she lays it in. And I thought, oh, this is where they're going to start going and start clicking. But credit to Franklin Central, they sealed it off. But Gilliard, again, she's so dazzling to watch, man. And just the way that she's able to create for herself is just so unique, especially within the way that Stuckmeyer likes to run his stuff. When he cuts her loose, it's something special.
I think it'll be an interesting offseason for Grayson Gilliard. I think the June months and the optionals, I think will be really important. There's an influx of talent coming into Center Grove. Their 29 class happens to be very good. And so, Gilliard will have to approach it very differently than last season. Last season, it had to be, hey, this is how we do things. Get to know it. We'll fit you into this system and inject you into what we do. Well, Grayson's going to have to be the one that's going to have to lead this kind of influx of talent that's going to come in and really set the example. So it's nice to see that at least individually, maybe she goes out on a positive note. But I mean, let's give I just wanted to give the flowers again to Bischoff and Grant and the senior class at Center Grove. I mean, it's a shame that it's Tuesday night, and we have to frame their names on the podcast with, like the off season and things like that. But I mean, these were kids that made Center Grove I mean, that's what makes this such a big game, is because those kids were there for so long. And I mean, Bischoff and Grant and kids like that, I mean, they've been doing it forever down there for Stuck. So, just hats off to them on their career. I'm sure that was a very tough back hallway to be in, I'm sure, after this game.
Yeah. Gilliard, by the way, one parting closing thought before we move on to Cathedral Chatard. It just, she proved she belonged, I guess. And maybe that's not the best way to put it, but you have those questions. A kid coming from Munster, put up great numbers there. How would she perform at Center Grove with that schedule and that system, all that? And she answered those questions and left zero room for doubt that the kid's special, man. Really, really special. Really special talent. I'm excited to see where she goes next year and over the course of the summer.
Yeah.
Let's shift gears. Let's move over to Cathedral Bishop Chatard. Big win for the Irish. They sweep the season series with Chatard winning 51-50. And we're joined now by Abby Beasley and Jaeda Wilson from Chatard. Girls, how you doing?
Great. How are you?
Great. Thanks so much for joining. Jaeda, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. Let me get the cameras all situated here. Congratulations on the win. That was a wild game. So you guys were up 17 in the first half. Then it gets cut down to 7. Then you find yourselves down by 2 going into the fourth and down by a point with 17 seconds left. Talk us through from there how you guys pulled it out from there.
Abby, do you want to go?
Yeah,
Or do you
I'll
want-
go first.
Okay.
I mean, I think with Chatard, you can always expect like a great game. They're going to give it their all. The environment is the best environment you'll ever play against. And I think we knew that, at halftime, we talked about they're not going to give up. And it's how you respond to them not giving up. And I think we handled it great. Even when things were not going our way, we were down at 8 at one point. We kept fighting, and it just showed, because even with 17 seconds, we're down by 1. We still find a way to win it.
Yeah, and it was nice to also play them in the earlier in the season, because we had a pretty similar game, I think. Like, some of the calls weren't going our way, but, we learned from that to kind of calm down, understand time and score, and I think that's really how we pulled it out.
What did you guys learn from that city championship game? Because like you mentioned, it was almost identical, where you guys kind of fought back from the brink there and won it late. Jaeda, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, so I would say that we learned, I think those games help us come together more, I would say, because when people aren't hitting shots or people are like fouling or things like that, we have to pick each other up, because if we don't do that, then everybody kind of falls apart, and that's not how we're going to win. We always win playing together.
I think going off, like, she couldn't have said it any better. It just shows that it's a team win each time. Like, again, Jaeda was being box and one this game after she hit 6 threes. So other people had to step up. And I just think this game especially, our freshmen stepped up. Everyone stepped up. And even though we didn't really have Jaeda as our offensive threat, everyone stepped up and we were able to win.
Speaking of your freshman, Caroline Wiggins tonight with 12 points to lead you guys. What have you seen from her both tonight and just over the course of the season?
I knew going in that she was going to be one of our biggest aspects in just our season this year. And I think each game she has just matured. And this game especially, she just went through the roof, because hitting those free throws at the very end as a freshman and then getting the steals, that takes so much. And I'm just so proud of her for being able to do that as a freshman. And I just think she just keeps proving each game that she belongs out there.
For you guys as seniors, how do you instill confidence in a freshman? Like, how have you gone about that this season?
I would say you kind of just have to teach them the ropes. Like, you have to let them know, hey, this is varsity. This is what it's going to be. It's not going to be like, 8th grade. Like, you have to be like tougher. And so I think our freshmen have done a great job at, learning that and understanding that throughout the season, and just being able to prove it, especially at the end of the games, especially like Chatard.
Abby, how's it going? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Jaeda, you too.
Thank you.
Abby, I have a question for you. So Lisa had told me, just in casual conversation, that you're like the kid that she wants to take into battle with her. Her ride or die, the kid that she relies on. Just talk about your relationship with Lisa, where that comes from, and maybe some instances where we got to see it tonight in a big basketball game in sectionals.
So obviously I've been on varsity with Coach Finn all 4 years. I've grown up knowing Coach Finn, went to grade school with her kids. I've just dreamed of being able to play for her. And then I think just having her as a coach each year, I've just grown like so close with her. And then this year we kind of went into it and was like, okay, this is our last year together. This is our chance to kind of prove it all. Like, let's just go into war together. I mean, we have nothing to lose. And I think she's had my back with everything, like with soccer, with basketball. And I just know I can trust her with anything outside of basketball. And I think that really helped this win, because I know without a doubt that she believes in me and I believe in her and I trust her with everything, that I'm out there playing for her. And I think that's so important to be able to, in these big games, that if you don't trust your coach, then I mean, it just goes down the drain. So I think having that relationship with her is so important.
That's really cool. Jaeda, for you, I was at the Carmel Cathedral game. I think you got a little bit of a box and one. I think you got a little box and one, I think, in the city championship game also. Sounds like there was a little more attention to you paid. I mean, you were hitting big shots, but in a text conversation that I had with Lisa tonight, she referenced 2 offensive rebounds that you had and just making big plays. What was your approach tonight? Did they catch you off guard with how they were going to take away your offense? And just kind of talk about what the game flow looked like for you and getting that face guard and how you kind of changed within the game.
Yeah, so I 100% expected them to face guard me. And I knew I maybe wouldn't be able to do as much on offense. You know, some of my shots weren't falling when I was getting open. So my next thing is, okay, what can I do? I can play defense and I can rebound. Those are 2 things that I can always do. And I think that not being able to score gave me more of like just go get the rebound, just play defense, you know? And I think I'm a guard. So I feel like a lot of people don't expect me when I'm inside on free throws to like get the rebound, but I'm pretty good at like boxing out and just going up to get the ball, because like, even if I can't help my team scoring, I can help them in other ways. It's not the only way to, you know, help our team win.
How did you guys address the matchups that they present, like with Anna Caskey and Olivia Bazai? Obviously, Abby, you're pretty familiar with Olivia through soccer season and all that and what she brings, but how did you guys handle that matchup?
I mean, I think Caroline did a great job in both the city championship and today. I think we knew that obviously we were going to be downsized a little bit, but how we can use the other people on the court to help out the person on Caskey. So I think we did a great job of like doubling down, getting in those gaps, and just making her life harder. I mean, props to her. She's a great player, scoring 22 tonight. But I think just giving her a presence that she'll have 2 people on her every time, at least make it difficult for her throughout the game.
For you guys in your season, obviously it started off a little rough, but you're playing such tough competition, and then things really started to turn around. Where now, you know, I mean, you've been on a bit of a heater now. What's changed? What's different about this group that's allowed you to have the success since really kind of the middle of December?
I think it's because we have a great underclassmen group, but also we have 4 really great seniors that are able to lead them in the correct way. And so I think by having that guidance, it's helped them kind of see like where they need to be and how we need to play to win.
And I think just having coaches that believe in us, like, I think our culture has changed, at least my 4 years being here, that it's really starting to become a family. And I think having that kind of rocky start at the beginning of the season presented some challenges, but really we focused on, we're going to have to be a family here. We're going to have to play for each other to win. And I think that really showed today that we all came together as a family. Every single person was involved in that. And that just showed we were able to get that gritty win.
One last one from me before I throw it over to Danny for a final question. You have Addicts coming up next. Obviously, Cameron Banks is going to be the main draw there. How do you go about defending her? What do you know about her and that team? Jaeda, why don't you start?
Yes. So we've been watching, not just her, but we've been watching like all of the teams that we were like potentially going to play throughout the season. And with Cameron, I think that we just need to contain her and then just play how we always played it. Contain her, contain everybody else, and then do what we need to do on offense. But that comes from our defense, you know, limiting possessions, making sure that they're not getting the ball to the people they need to get the ball to score. And just playing good defense.
And I think just playing such a hard like regular season matchups all the time is we're used to playing just such good players that each game when another really good players on the court, okay, we've already handled this. Just keep doing the same thing, play good D, get a score, stop again, and get another score.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you both so much for joining us. Congratulations again on the win tonight. And yeah, I'll be seeing you guys soon.
Congratulations, girls.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jaeda Wilson and Abby Beasley of Cathedral girls basketball team. I almost said girls soccer out of habit with Beasley because I'm used to her in soccer.
I think they're Hank, real quick. I think that senior leadership that I think Jaeda kind of spoke of, I think this is when it's really going to be tested, because sports lore would suggest that Friday is absolutely a trap. So they're going to have to avoid the trap. And so I think it was when we were kind of texting in the chat that we had one more question. That was mine too, because we're having them on the show and celebrating the win, but it's only one win. I mean, you just move right one bracket. Now you have to play somebody else. And if you don't have it together, your season's going to end. So Friday's a trap. We'll see how they respond to it. But that senior leadership is definitely going to be tested, I think, in the next few days when they're in practice.
Going to transition us now over to sectional 20-something. I'm building suspense. Sectional 11. Pike beats Brownsburg 67-50. We have some highlights, and then we're going to bring on Pike coach Keith Hollins. Some highlights from Pike's 67-50 win over Brownsburg, and now we are joined by Keith Hollins, head coach of the Pike Red Devils. Keith, it's good to see you, buddy. Congratulations on the win.
Oh, thank you so much. Good to see you guys also.
Man, that was really impressive. Just give us your overview, your thoughts on the keys to getting that win in just such a decisive fashion.
I mean, our keys were to just kind of stretch their zone. They actually play a really interesting zone. That's probably the first year I've seen it. They play like a 1-1-3. Josh Sabol, first of all, does an excellent job. I mean, he's a great coach. And then Brownsburg had a wonderful season. So let's not take away from what Brownsburg has done this season. And then with Avery Gordon being a Miss Basketball candidate, she is really, really good and hard to stop. But our goal was to attack the zone, try to get corners to kind of lift her out of the middle, and then try to hit that weak side. So off the highlights you kind of saw, we attacked her, and then we kind of dumped down just to bring her out a little bit so we can get some easy layups. That was kind of the plan for us tonight, and just pressure, just play full court man-to-man and just play without fouling. And our girls were really disciplined tonight and following the details of the game plan.
Is that kind of an adjustment too from that first time you saw him? Because it seemed like the first time you played him, you'd build some momentum, and then a turnover kind of shot yourselves in the foot with that, or a foul or something like that, and things would kind of unravel. Whereas tonight I heard Brownsburg gets within 2, and then you guys were the ones being the aggressors and pushing it back out, taking back control, and kind of maintaining the lead the entire way.
It's interesting you asked that. The first time we played them, we took a weird approach. I mean, we had just come off, I would say, a college schedule. We had just played Ben Davis that Saturday, and then off Sunday because we couldn't do anything. Then we played on Martin Luther King to travel almost 4 hours to go play a basketball game and travel back, and then played Brownsburg the next day. I mean, we literally just kind of watched them and didn't say, hey, this is what they do. So we were more prepared and we were more locked in. We didn't get that the first time. But again, like I said, they're still a great team, and that we had to respect that. Man, they only had before tonight. They technically only lost to 3 teams in our state, 3 really good teams.
So, Keith, I mean, last year you had the game at IHSAA, kind of springboards you through. You end up winning sectionals, and then late in the year, I mean, here you are again in advancing past a really, really talented Brownsburg team. I mean, what is it about sectional time that really kind of gets your kids going or gets you going?
I think it's our schedule. Our schedule is really good in January. I think it prepares us for the tournament. It's a good mix. And when you have, LN, when you have HSC, when you have Brownsburg, you have the Carmels, you have the Zionsvilles with the Lafayette Jeffs, and then us, going out of town. And Ben Davis, I mean, our schedule prepares us for any type of team because we're going to see those teams again. I think to answer your question, what brought us together, I think we've been together all year. We've been dealing with some injuries, but we had some things happen in the last couple of weeks that was some scary things just from us. Even from our last game, we had a kid just go down, but that was emotional for us against LN, which we never got to finish that game. But that really what brought us together. Like, okay, we've been through a lot, but no matter what, we still got to stay together. And that's always been our thing, is being a family, being a sisterhood, and talk about Ubuntu. Like, that's just what we've been preaching all year.
So you weren't able to finish out the game against Lawrence Central or Lawrence North, that regular season finale?
No, we did not. That game actually got called. I know no one knows that, but that game was called in the third quarter after one of our players went down.
Oh, I had no idea. That's scary.
I didn't know either.
Speaking of the injuries, Kamari Booker, it was great to hear that she was able to play tonight. How did she look, and how's the upper body looking? I'll keep it vague.
Kamari looked really good tonight.
Good.
She stepped up, playing defense. I mean, we're worried about the shoulder just because Avery's just so dominant down there. You got to keep your arms up high and try not to foul, and you got to try to get the – but Kamari played really, really well tonight coming off the injury from her shoulder.
Another one of your bigs I want to ask about before I toss it back to Danny, Marley Jeffers. I mean, we've talked about her one-on-one throughout the season, written about her, but I mean, the kid's averaging a double-double. She started the year with like 30 and 20 or something crazy against Avon. Just what makes that kid so special, and how have you seen her? How did she perform tonight in her, a sectional game?
It's tough tonight. It's tough for her to score a double-double when you got someone 6'6", and she's got to block out. And she had a tough task today. She had to just contain Avery, which I thought she did a really good job. She got into some foul trouble early, but we were able to just tonight, I mean, it was all about next man up. We played 12 people tonight. We played all 12. And that was just what we were going to do. We were just going to have fresh legs, and everybody knew what the assignment was. So if she's out, we got to put somebody else in. But Marley, what makes who Marley is her hard work and her age. She's she is our captain. She's the mother of our team. But it's just her hard work and her tenacity that she wants to get better. I guarantee you right now, if she could, she'll probably be in a gym right now trying to work on different moves. That's just who she is. She's a true gym rat.
Keith, talk a little bit about just going back to the game. I'm curious because I haven't screened it. I haven't seen it. Did you do anything unique to defend, the McCullough-Gordon combination? Did you bring help from what was your approach there defensively? And since I guess since the game's already happened and it's done, she's graduated. I mean, share your trade secrets. I mean, what was your mission in regards to defending Brownsburg? Because I think they're really unique, obviously with the piece of Avery, but how he positions those players seemed like a tougher guard than just, check your man, right?
Oh, it is. Like, you have to understand what they're trying to do early. And then once they get it to Avery, once they look for Avery, then you got to fall right back into it. So what we did kind of against Ella, it was a phenomenal player also. We just pressured her, just made sure we always had a hand in her face. I mean, we tagged her as a shooter, so you can't leave. You just had to know where she was at all times. Tonight, we kind of just played off of Montgomery and kind of doubled Avery off of that and just said, Montgomery, beat us, score. But, I tell you what, Morgan Montgomery did a lot of good things tonight. She was shooting the ball. I mean, she ended the game with 14.
Yeah, she was all over that highlight package.
Yeah.
All over it.
So, I mean, that's what we did. We just kind of took Ella and just pressured her. But, man, she's a tough kid. She's really, really good.
So spin us forward, Keith. I mean, it's the nature of postseason basketball is you get to enjoy this for about, a night, right? Because you have Plainfield looming. I mean, that's going to be one of the more anticipated second-round matchups maybe anywhere in the state. So talk about, where we go from here.
Well, ever since I came home, I've been looking at Plainfield, but right now I don't. Plainfield's really good. I mean, Mensler, we went against her last year in the regionals. We all really know. We know that she's really, really good, and I know she can shoot from half court. She can just step across half court and just let it fly. So it's going to be really interesting as we sit here and just break down film with my coaching staff as we look at different things. So from here, it's just we got to continue to do what we do, build on our defense and who we are. And then we just got to find ways to, figure out what is Plainfield weak at and what can we take advantage of. I mean, once again, we have not started looking at Plainfield. I'm a big believer that we only worry about one team at a time in this. So obviously, if you win, you knew you were playing Plainfield, but now we have technically 24 hours to figure out what we're going to do against Plainfield.
Seems like you should have a size advantage inside with some of the posts that you have and them having graduated Peyton from last year. As a coach, I guess just generally speaking, how do you take advantage of it when you do have a size advantage over them? Like, I guess the comp would be Avon from the beginning of the year. How do you take advantage of it when you have, an advantage in the post over teams?
You just get the ball down there and hope they finish. No, we try to run a couple of our sets. We kind of do different things. We try to get you in some ball screens, just kind of see them. Obviously, we do have the size, and we are expecting. I would expect Plainfield to try to work on double down. So we may look at some different things to some inside out, back to inside, just to kind of get rid of the double. But like I said, honestly, I don't even know right now. I told our kids to enjoy tonight, but to look at it, I know we have a size advantage. We just got to figure out what we're going to do to get the job done for Friday.
Do you think you guys are still flying under the radar?
Absolutely.
Stop talking about you.
Absolutely.
I'm surprised you didn't decline the offer to come
honestly
on.
Was too.
I thought you were going to decline it.
No, I wouldn't do that, man. You guys, again, you guys have done so much for girls basketball and everything, so I wouldn't decline this, no. And I appreciate you guys having us on too.
Keith, the matchup on Friday is going to be, if I'm not mistaken, I think my recollection serves me that's going to be a regional rematch of last year. So which means both teams were sectional champs. Just talk about how your sectional championship last year helped you prepare for this sectional game this year and in preparation for the Plainfield game on Friday.
It's interesting you brought that up. I was actually talking to our staff. It kind of, if I go back to last year, our sectional run, obviously, I think we played Plainfield. I mean, not Pear Meridian first, but then we came back to play Ron Colley, which Ron Colley had got us last year in the season, and it was the first time they were our first loss, and they had played a zone. So we obviously come back and we get them in the playoffs. But playing against Franklin Central into the sectional championship, which it came down to the last second. That could have went either way. But knowing our kids been saying playing field, they know about playing field, and it's still in their minds about last year regional. So I just think it just goes back to we can't get emotionally into it. We still got to stick to who we are and what we do. We've been very successful at who we are and what we do for this season. We've had a successful year. We just got to stay disciplined, and that's going to be my message to our kids. We got to be disciples of discipline and details. That's it.
Is it easy to get kids to buy into that?
When you win, yes. I mean, yeah, it does. I mean, it just takes time. It does. I mean, again, me going into my third year, and I told our administration, who has been great supporters of us, year one is year zero, year two is year one, and year three is year two. So going into this, we have a heavy junior class, and this is the class technically I came in with. They've all bought in, and they understand, like, they're going to make mistakes, but how do we overcome those, and what do we do next? And it's just next play. You just move on.
Two non-Pike questions for you. One, were you surprised at all to see Franklin Central, the team that you took out in the sectional championship game last year, to see them moving on with an overtime win over Center Grove?
No, Franklin Central is good. No, yeah. I'm happy to hear Lily came back, and I'm happy to hear her injury is not what people thought. But no, when I saw that, and I saw that you posted that and you were talking about it, no, I'm actually happy for Franklin Central. They're really, really good.
So many young, talented players like them. You guys playing field, like the era that we're in now with girls basketball here is just, the talent's insane.
Mm-hmm.
It's unbelievable. And then I got to ask, friend of the show, Maddie Nolan, coaching over at Zionsville. You got to play her during the season. She was telling me you were texting her as pregame warmups or pregame intros are happening. Just how cool is it for you to see her coming back and just to have that role and I mean, just everything that she's been doing here, playing professionally, coming back coaching and all that stuff.
It is great to see Maddie in that role. I remember there was a moment in the game we were playing. That's when we had that big run towards the end because it was a good tight game. And she called out a press, and I looked at her. I said, "Oh, really?" And she just laughed. But no, Maddie is a phenomenal player, a phenomenal coach, and don't be surprised in the next, if she decides to do it, that she'll probably be the next head coach somewhere. And it'll be great to go against her. But Maddie Nolan is probably, I've talked to you about this, she's probably one of the top players I've ever coached. Just from the mental side of the game, and just to know what she went through and how hard she works. It ain't too many players that can be like Maddie Nolan.
And that team went to the state championship to kind of refresh everybody's memory. What is the relationship between you and Keelan Block? Did you guys overlap with Maddie at Zionsville? And
yes,
look, I mean, I'm going to say this because I know you both, okay? I see a lot of what you have implemented with Pike and what you did with Zionsville. I see a lot of that stuff come out in the scheme at Plainfield. So do you guys still cool? You guys talk and
you still
joke around with each other?
No, we are super cool. We talk every week. He watches film and he tells me what he sees. Keelan Block, we were at Zionsville. I was there, obviously I was there first. And then I told Andy, like, hey, I got a guy we can bring. And Keelan came in and did an amazing job with our offense. And I was more of the defense coordinator for Andy McGuire. But no, we're still friends. We still talk twice to 3 times a week. It's going to be kind of weird in the next 48 hours if we are going to talk to each other. I'm sure if he watches this, he's probably going to call me. But no, Keelan Block, you are right, Danny. He does still run some of the stuff that we have done. So it's actually cool to see it, and it's actually gonna be cool because he's gonna see the stuff. He knows what we do.
Yeah, Keith. I mean, listen, there's no greater compliment than when you're watching film and you see your stuff being run. I'm sure that's a really cool thing. But you'll be busy renaming all of your sets, I think, in the next 48 hours to be able to call them out.
Well, I'll tell you this, Danny. A lot of it came from you.
I'm excited to go to that game on Friday potentially and just look in the stands. And I'm sure McGuire will be there.
Oh yeah.
Maddie's got a game. Otherwise, I'm sure she'd be there. But it just seems like, Keith, every time seems like somebody else, just connections with you guys, between you and Danny, just connected to everybody.
I've been blessed to be around a lot of great people and a lot of smart basketball coaches. So, again, I was just the one quiet, just sitting down, never talk, but I'll just learn from the best. And, again, if it wasn't for, the Danny Riegos, the Robert Angelos, the Mark Stevens, I wouldn't be where I am right now today in this seat, So, I don't forget where I came from and and the people who have helped me get to where I am, and Andy McGuire's too. Like, I wouldn't be in this seat if it wasn't for these coaches that taught me how to think the game and look at different ways.
Terrific stuff. Well, Keith, thanks so much, man, for hopping on with us. Congratulations again on the big win. Best of luck on Friday, and we'll be talking again here soon.
All right. Thank you so much. See you.
Congrats, partner.
Pike head coach Keith Hollins with us. I've been texting with Vince Zerbone, hoping still to have him before things are all said and done. Josh Sabol's been popping in and out, so I think we'll have him on here in a minute. Danny, while we're in between interviews, why don't you talk to us about what you saw at Sectional 8 tonight? Hamilton Southeastern and Noblesville both move on. Hamilton Southeastern does so with a 46-30 win over Fishers. Noblesville pulls out the 51-40 win over Carmel.
I think it was an expected outcome in both basketball games. I think Noblesville and HSC were the superior basketball teams. I think certain things needed to happen for Carmel and Fishers to compete respectively against those two opponents. But first, from an HSE perspective, that was the early basketball game. They look sharp, like really sharp. And I couldn't help but think during that basketball game that the Tuesday draw was probably a very positive thing for them. That was a nightmare first half. It was a nightmare first half because I think HSE, I think they made all right-hand layups in the first half. Like, that's all they made were right-hand layups in the first half that were wide open. They hit one tough shot. It was a contested right-hand layup that Maya had. But other than that, there just seemed to be, I don't want to call them nerves, but nerves, I guess, for a lack of better description. Just shots weren't going down, and I think they were able to find their rhythm. But in the second half, like, Maya was Maya. It's such a stupid, unoriginal take because she's great, and she was in this basketball game. She had a game high 20. But I'll point a couple of things out. Like, her ball movement was really, or not her ball movement, her player movement. Like, she moved herself. Like, she moved without the ball as confidently and as decisively as I had really seen all season. She just kind of knew where her looks were going to be. And hurt them, and hurt them. She was appropriately aggressive, is the way that I would say it. So she was in her bag. But the one thing I'll say too, I thought Satterfield was in a rhythm tonight too. There was a point late in the third quarter where Maya was, I don't want to say cooking, but she was in a rhythm. She hit a couple of like mid-range jumpers early in the quarter. She actually had another one where there was a dead ball whistle. She shot it anyways and just made it. Like, so she had and then a couple of free throws. I think she was like 5 for 5 in shot attempts, free throws included in that. And Satterfield calls a timeout when it's a 14-point lead, just wants to run something, uses Maya as a decoy, sets a little pin down rise screen for Brindley. And Brindley hits a 3 and they go up 17. So I think Satterfield was in his rhythm too. Like, that's a gangster call right there, to go away from Maya when she's hitting shots at a regular Maya clip, to go to Brindley and then get another 3, which essentially is the play that kind of ends the game. So HSE was HSE. They looked like the number 1 team in the state. I think there was little resistance. They congested the paint, took away driving lanes for Dickman and Shellhammer. To spin it over for Noblesville, that one was in question for a little bit longer. In fact, I think it was a 5-point basketball game late in the third quarter. And then, in the most stupid, unoriginal take, the same way I described Maya, Meredith became Meredith. Like, she started really being ultra aggressive and attacking downhill and just got to wherever she wanted. And Carmel got late and help a couple of times. But when Meredith gets 2 feet in the paint, she likes to play off of 2 feet down there. So she does a really good job of pivoting and maneuvering her body to get good looks. Sometimes she would go strong, but I think Meredith ended up with a game high, probably 24, 25, I would guess. But for both Maya and Meredith for HSE and Noblesville, respectively, it just seemed like a very professional night. They just did what they needed to do. I think Maya and Meredith both didn't feel like they needed to be the best player for 32 minutes. They just needed to be the best player for 5, and they were, and it proved to be enough in both basketball games. The thing that kind of jumped out at me and in the section that I was sitting with, like Maya and Meredith, I think might be the 2 best players in the state at managing their foul situation. Both drawing fouls they have talent for, but also managing their own fouls. Like there was a stretch early in the second half of the HSE Fishers game where Maya had 2 fouls, and Lauren came out of the half with the dedicated effort. You could tell that we are going to attack Maya to try to pick up this third, because they felt like putting Maya on the bench with their 3rd or their 4th foul was one of the ways that they could have gotten back in the basketball game. And Maya showed tremendous self-control and just understanding that 2 points from Dickman is not nearly as valuable as her 3rd foul. So she essentially just let it go, like didn't contest them. And meanwhile, while that's happening, she was answering and trading punches, getting 2s on the other end. So the Dickman layups were just going away because Maya would erase them with another pull-up jumper. You know, Meredith did the same too, where she was just drawing contact, getting to the line where she was 5 of 6. And Hank, you'll remember this. Do you remember when Meredith couldn't make a free throw? Like,
oh yeah, that was the story last year.
Yeah, she's like a 40% foul shooter, and she's a kid that not just like fixed it, but it became like a huge weapon for her. Like she was 5 of 6 from the line tonight. She's the kid that wants the basketball late when they're getting fouled. I mean, just a very professional game all around, and it sets up. That's what makes Saturday night, and I'm not looking past Zionsville and Westfield, but that's what makes the potential of Saturday night in Sectional 8 so compelling, because if that's my take, is how professional and good Maya and Meredith looked, like, Hank, something's got to give on Saturday night, right? Like something absolutely has to give. But, you know, and there was another one too, and I'm jumbling around here just because I think we're just killing time before Coach comes on, but like Maya's so good at drawing fouls, and look, some people hate it, right? She's seemingly fouled on every offensive possession that they have, but she did something that I haven't seen tonight, which I thought was extremely clever. They were trailing on the screens, making her a curler, and she would stop and just let the girl that was trailing run into her and drawing fouls. So look, those kids are in the right frame of mind. They looked great tonight. HSC and Noblesville are going to go on and play Westfield and Zionsville respectively, and we'll see if we get the Saturday night matchup.
That's a recap from Sectional 8. We'll dive into that a little bit deeper as we get closer to Friday. We got some stuff planned. Right now, though, we want to bring on friend of the show, Josh Sabol. Hi, Josh.
Hi, guys.
How you doing, buddy?
What's going on?
Not much, man. Tough loss tonight.
Oh.
Just talk us through it. Let us be your therapist. You tell us what you saw. It's just you, me, Danny, and 14 people in the chat right
now. These 14 people are Brownsburg diehards. You know, it's hard because, you know, we had such a great year, and then it just comes to an end. You know what I mean? Like for 4 months, like these girls just gave me everything they had. Like first day there, they bought in completely. You know, had 5 amazing seniors, and just a great group of girls. And we had such a great season. And for it just to end, you know, in like 90 minutes, you know, it's disappointing. Obviously, you know, everyone was very, very upset after the game. I think that says a lot about our seniors as well, how much they were loved by, you know, all the girls in the program. But you got to give credit to Pike. I mean, they were ready to play. They played very, very, very well tonight. And, you know, I really like their chances moving forward.
Pike led 25-12 in the second. You guys go on an 11-0 run to cut it to 2. Pike manages to respond. They get it back out to 8. Never really looked back. Kind of felt like that was sort of the tipping point over the course of the game.
Yeah, and if you look at our games this year, like, to use like a football like reference, I guess, like, we're kind of like the Baltimore Ravens in the sense, like, Gordon is Derrick Henry, and we play a funky zone, and we play well with a lead, because we can just slow the game down. We can get Gordon her touches. We play this weird zone which forces a lot of bad shots and creates a lot of turnovers. And when we got behind in the second half by like 16, 17 points, like that's not our strength. Our strength is not speeding the game up and, playing from behind. Like we played, we played much, much better when we have a lead.
Josh, how did you do that this season? I mean, you just, everybody that I talked to, I think of myself too, but just the talent that you got out of those girls and just the level that they took up to. I mean, to put it plainly, I guess, like this group really exceeded expectations with what they did this season. How did you as a coach get them to that point, and what did you see from the girls in terms of their buy-in?
The buy-in was instant. Like I think, there's two things that players want. They want coaches that know their stuff, and they want to know that you can make them better. And I think our players, like, they bought in right away. I think they knew, just from the first couple of days that this was different. Like the player development was going to be different. The preparation was going to be different. The scheme was going to be different, and it was going to be putting them in a position to be successful. And, I think everyone knew about Avery Gordon. They knew about Elle a little bit, but just to see the progress of all of our players over the course of the year, whether it's, shooting or playing off 2 feet or making the extra pass or, and just kind of growing and just getting that confidence. I think, over the course of the season, we just saw them grow every single day. And it was just a privilege, to lead this group. It's a special group.
So you get handed this roster, Josh, and I mean, and I guess I never really had the opportunity to ask you. I know I've asked you off record, but they are, it's a different team to be able to run the stuff that you're accustomed to running year after year. I mean, you're kind of known for the kind of 5-out stuff, and you almost have to change. I mean, how big? Look, Avery's a difficult player to coach against, but she probably presented a lot of problems for you to coach as well, because it didn't really fit your scheme. So how did you talk about that in kind of setting up who you were as Brownsburg this year? Yeah,
I mean, I think if you've seen us play, those Franklin teams, like we're gonna run and jump 84 feet for the entire game. We're trying to get extra possessions. We're flying around. We're throwing a bunch of different like exotic like traps and things at you, just trying to get extra possessions. And obviously everyone knows that we love to shoot threes, and it's just kind of basic math, extra possessions plus really good shooting plus not turning the ball over. Like that's just kind of what we do. And we've done it for a long time at Franklin, had a lot of success. And when I got here, this team was literally the opposite of that. So we had to kind of take their strengths and blend it with what I'm good at. And we were able to really just kind of meet in the middle and have a really, really good season against the top, schedule. And, and as you guys know, when you play, in this conference and you play, the non-conference schedule, like every night's a dogfight. And, I think the girls did a really nice job of, just kind of taking what we do and just kind of blending it with what they were accustomed to.
Josh, I'll pay the compliment to you on air. I know I've done it in some episodes behind your back. I've also kind of done it over text, but you took Avery and Elle McCall. I'll center on those two players. You made them complementary pieces. And some of the examples that I've used on air has been, in your oversets, you send McCullough to strong side corner, which makes double down from that side virtually impossible. there's a double stagger set that you run for 3 for McCullough where Avery is the second screener to avoid a kind of the 5 hedging out. Talk about those two kids in how you kind of set up the complementary action, and just kind of spin that forward too into your thoughts on what postseason accolades and what all-star teams you feel like they have candidacies for.
Oh, well, I mean, like by far, like I think Avery Gordon is a Miss Basketball candidate, and I think Avery's also an Indiana All-Star. I think that's a given. I mean, she's in the last 4 years. Like I don't think you're going to find a more dominant player. She's like a once in 20, 30-year player. I think like her accolades speak for themselves, and obviously she's going to have a great career at Purdue, and I definitely think that she's an Indiana All-Star. Elle McCullough, I think, was a little under the radar this year. I think she only averaged like 7 points a game coming into the season. I think people knew of her, but I don't think they really knew, could she do it at a high level? And, she's a junior all-star, and I know I'm biased because I'm her coach, but I don't think anyone can name a player with the strength of schedule that was a 50, 40, 90 player. I mean, if you look at the NBA, there's only been maybe 5 50, 40, 90 shooters in NBA history. Kevin Durant, maybe, I think Steph Curry a couple times, maybe Mark Price, somebody like that. 50% from 2, 40% from 3, and 90% from the line. I think she finished 97% from the line. And she's also the number one a person on the scout. I mean, Avery's obviously getting all the attention, but Elle gets the number one perimeter defenders game in, game out. So I think Elle is a junior all-star, and I think she's a core 6. I think she's closer to a core 6 than she is just making the team. And I think anyone that would look at her numbers and look at who we play against, you're not going to find a better shooter. And it's not just from 3. She's really expanded her game this year. If you look at her now, she's driving long closeouts and getting to the basket. She can finish with her left. She can rondo in the lane, play off 2 feet. To me, Elle is a junior all-star and should be a core 6 if anyone has, 2 eyes and any common sense. So I love those kids. I think those two, they're fun to play together because, Danny, like you said, when you put them in sets, whether it's staggers or zooms or overloads, you kind of yin and yang. It's okay, well, if you're going to double Avery, then Elle's going to be wide open. Okay, or if you're going to lock and chase Elle off a stagger, then that means Avery's going to get one-on-one. So it was very, very easy for me to put them in a lot of those actions where you really had to pick your poison.
Easy, he said, Hank. I love that. Also, Josh, take the coach's hat off. I've got one more before Hank kind of lands the plane here. Take your coach hat off and put the podcast hat back on. Can you handicap the Pike game and the Plainfield game? I mean, you played both of them twice, man.
Yeah. So obviously very good. Both of them very good, very well coached. It's a contrast in styles. I would say if I'm Pike, I am making this a street fight. I am pressing the whole game. I am sending probably 4 to the glass and trying to beat them up and get extra possessions. I am making this thing ugly. The Pike kind of reminds you of those Michigan State Tom Izzo basketball teams. You better have your football helmet and your football shoulder pads on because it's going to be very, very physical. So if I'm Pike, that's my approach. If I'm Plainfield, I think the biggest thing is when they press, if you can make that first pass, you can get 4-on-3s, 3-on-2s, 2-on-1s. I think shot selection is going to be important because if you're not disciplining your shot selection, they're going to capitalize off of that. And I think that's a big part of Plainfield strategy. I think it's going to be close, but I like Plainfield this matchup because I think, they're going to be a little bit more rested. but also they always put 5 girls on the court that can dribble, pass, and shoot, and they've got depth. So I like Plainfield in a close one.
Good stuff. Also, by the way, on the Indiana All-Star stuff, Josh, as you know, Danny Riego is the one responsible for all that.
Yeah.
And everybody, danny.riego@hotmail.com.
Yeah. He's gonna be hearing from me if I don't see El McCullough or Avery Gordon's name on there. He'll be hearing from me for sure.
That's a lot. Just so everybody we can establish, that's a lie.
Shut up. We're gonna mute his mic. All Danny Riego. He's the problem with the Indy Stars coverage, any perceived biases, me being bad at picks, Josh not having hair, Danny Riego.
Yeah, that one especially.
Danny.riego@AOL.com again for everybody. Well, Josh, buddy, I don't have any other questions. It's late and I'm tired.
Well, I appreciate it. I just want to give a shout out to, or just real quick before we end this call, like to my seniors, Claire Miller, Delaney Steers, Husai Diallo, Morgan Montgomery, Avery Gordon, they didn't know who I was. They knew nothing about me. And, they get a coaching change, 10 days before the summer even starts. And they jumped in with 2 feet. They bought in. They accepted me. And this is one of the most fun seasons I've ever had coaching. And they are a big part of it. We're going to miss them a lot.
You glad you came back?
Oh, I love it. It's been great. I've really had a lot of fun. I didn't want this season to end. I really wanted to win really bad for this group of seniors. Every day has just been a privilege. I've really enjoyed it. So it's been a lot of fun for me.
You've done a great job, man.
I appreciate it, guys.
And seriousness, and thanks again for jumping on with us. We'll be in touch and yeah, stick around here for a minute. We'll talk to you off air.
All right, buddy.
All right, it's Josh Sabol, head coach at Brownsburg. Danny, a few games that I wanted to mention, and then we'll let you do the same as well before we get out of here. Some big games tonight, some surprising results, ones that caught me off guard. The one that jumps to mind immediately is Greenfield Central going down to Richmond tonight. That one caught me off guard. They lose tonight 54-50, so Richmond moves on to play Mount Vernon instead of Greenfield Central. Things are clearing up a little bit for Pendleton Heights, if I do say so myself. But we'll see there, because you're either going to get the Richmond Cinderella story, or you're going to get Mount Vernon, your nemesis in the championship game if you're Greenfield Central. Props to North Central, by the way, as we continue the Central theme. North Central 47-38 win over Warren Central.
Good for them.
Their season going, really excited for them. Deanne Ramey's doing a great job with them. They'll try and slay Goliath here coming up on Friday with Lawrence Central at Lawrence North in the semifinal there for sectional 10. Or some new ones. Beech Grove with a big win tonight over Indian Creek. That was impressive. I think Indian Creek was a little bit better than what people might have realized after graduating Faith Wiseman, but huge win for Beech Grove. Miley Bowling's a great player that they have down there. A really nice win for them. I think that's where I'm going to be tomorrow night out there at Indian Creek to check out Shelbyville, which is in the midst of a season. Danny, they graduated everybody from last year. Everybody. They have a winning record and are competing in this sectional. Becca Huffler's done phenomenal work down there, starting their first freshman since Kylie Edwards, who's now playing softball at Mississippi State. So that's really cool. Nice win. Tri-West beat up on Frankfurt. Alexandria Shortridge beat Heron 60-39. That one surprised me a little bit. Really nice win for Shortridge. Owen Valley Northview move on. Anything else that jumped out to you or that you wanted to touch on before we call tonight?
No, I sure don't. I would just remind everybody that came on the short end tonight and whose season ended. Congratulations on a good season. And just remember that everybody comes back to you in the end, whether it's Tuesday night, Friday night, or Saturday night. It's everyone's going to come back to you in the end. And even the sectional winners, you're going to get half of them that are going to come back to you. So you'll have some company very soon, and it'll all seem to make sense. Tomorrow, by the way, I'm not going to be in a gym, but I'm going to stream that Penn South Bend Washington game.
Just about to go there. That'll be the talk of the folks at tomorrow night's show. We'll have Austin Huff on for sure. We might it's kind of a light Wednesday night slate. I'll be out at some games. We'll have some video for those, maybe some guests, but we might go all out with South Bend Washington versus Penn, 21-1 versus 19-5. Go back and listen to the sectional preview show. I clipped it off, have it up on IndyStar.com. Austin with some really good insight on that game. Penn was shorthanded the last time. It's only lost to South Bend Washington by 2, so the rematch is going to be really phenomenal. But that's all we got for tonight. Thanks to everybody for sticking around and watching. like I said, stories up on IndyStar.com. As soon as we finish up the show, I'll get scoreboards updated. But for Danny Rago, my name is Brian Henshin. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll talk to you on Wednesday night.